Well, we're no longer in limbo. Now we're in a Liberal la-la land. The challenge took place yesterday as predicted around midday, between midday and 1 o'clock. And the outcome for me was quite depressing. We had three candidates: Peter Dutton, Julie Bishop and Scott Morrison. Julie Bishop got booted out early on, and then it was a contest between the two, Scott Morrison and Peter Dutton. And unfortunately for this country and the Liberal Party, Scott Morrison won the ballot 45 votes to 40. So it was very close, very divided party. And now we have a Prime Minister who's almost a carbon copy of Turnbull, and he's deluding himself into thinking he's going to be able to turn things around. Well, it's not going to happen, unfortunately. I'm afraid the Titanic is heading towards that iceberg, and the Liberal Party is doomed. And the reason I say that is that the former Treasurer pledged continuity rather than a departure in any major policy, including the National Energy Guarantee, the scheme that split the government over cuts to carbon emissions. On immigration, however, he sent a clear message of support for a multicultural Australia after his defeated rival, Peter Dutton, vowed this week to cut the migrant intake. In other words, Scott Morrison is right behind a big Australia with this ridiculously high immigration figure coming into Australia, into Melbourne and Sydney. He's not going to lift a finger to change that, so it's business as usual for the Liberals. As I say, they're just not listening to the public. And Scott Morrison, the only difference is he might have a different cabinet, and it looks as though Dutton will be in there and maybe even Abbott. We'll see, but I don't think it's going to make much difference because Scott Morrison seems to be pretty well welded onto the policies that Turnbull had, which is what has alienated so many Conservative voters. So I see very little hope in this. I'm very depressed by the outcome. I'm depressed personally, and I'm depressed for the country. And as far as the Liberal Party is concerned, I believe that this is the final nail in the coffin. They will get crushed at the next election unless Morrison's able to do a 180, and I can't see that happening. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. And I think probably it's time for Peter Dutton, Abbott and any other true Conservatives in the Liberals just to jump ship right now. We might as well actually get this election out of the way, because we're going to have to put up with Labor for 3 years. We might as well get it done straight away, go through the pain and have a totally reformed Liberal Party if it still exists. And but hopefully we'll have proper Conservative opposition parties that can fight the next election after the upcoming one, which is going to be a total disaster. So Turnbull's got his way. His legacy lives on. All his dirty tricks have worked out perfectly for him. He's got his clone in position in Prime Ministership now in the guise of Scott Morrison. This is the same Scott Morrison, I might add, who basically stuffed up self-funded retirees with their superannuation. It's also the same Scott Morrison who is doing handstands over the abolition of the tampon tax on GST tampon tax. Those are his priorities. It's like the vote on same-sex marriage. You know, that's to him as a top priority, whereas things like flooding the country with immigrants doesn't concern him in the slightest because he thinks it's good for business. No, it's not, Scott. We need to improve productivity, not just add numbers to get the bottom line improved. That's pathetic thinking, and it's going to destroy our country. So, look, I feel very depressed about this. My local member, Warren Ench, who I haven't got much time for, apparently he was the 43rd signature on that petition that actually got the party meeting happening yesterday. I mean, I can't believe the crap that Turnbull's put us through, these hoops just to get this vote out of the way. Turnbull doesn't give a stuff about the country. He doesn't give a stuff about the Liberal Party. He's helped to destroy it. And, a good riddance to him. I just don't want to see that guy's face again. There was some good news today that the head of AGL, the American Vesey, who was the guy who basically was quite happy to shut down the Liddell coal-fired power station, which provides baseload power, to substitute renewables because he gets more subsidies from the government through the renewables. So it's good for AGL's bottom line, but not good for the country. Sounds very much like Turnbull, doesn't he? Well, Vessey's gone, thank God, and so is Turnbull, but we're still stuck with the ghost of Turnbull in the guise of Scott Morrison. So I'm sorry to say, do not expect anything good to happen. They had a chance to turn it around. They had a chance to avoid the iceberg by voting for Peter Dutton, but as usual, the morons in the Parliamentary Liberal Party have basically squibbed it once more, and they basically have signed their own death warrant, and good riddance to them. I hope once all the dust settles, these people will be just omitted from the party. The same can be said for the National Party. They're in disarray as well. They've basically got left-wingers running their party. There needs to be major reforms on the right side of politics in this country to give voters a real choice for a change. But I'm afraid right now we're in one of those disgusting holding patterns, which we've been in since Turnbull took power. And the only good news is that eventually we will have an election. I suspect that Morrison will try to drag it out until early next year. However, of course, Turnbull, classic Turnbull, who said he would stay in Parliament and avoid the by-election, has now decided to jump ship. So there will be a by-election in the seat of Wentworth, and apparently Tony Abbott's sisters are thinking of standing in that seat. So that's an interesting mix. And there's no guarantee that the Liberals will win that. It could be another party, in which case we will go to an election. And I think that's a good thing. The sooner we go to the polls now, the better, because really Scott Morrison's not going to turn it around. He's not the solution. He's part of the problem. And we just need to go through a lot of pain in the guise of having a Bill Shorten government, which is going to be disastrous for the country. But some good will come out of it, but we're going to have 3 years of pain, and I think we may as well start it sooner rather than later, because the Liberals are basically cactus. They're gone, and they're so inept they don't even realise what they did yesterday. But they really have signed their death warrant, and Menzies will be turning in his grave seriously at what's happened to his Liberal Party. So very sad day. I'm afraid I can't really take any positives out of it. It's a pity, because I was really hoping that Dutton would get through, and there was an outside chance he could actually win the election, but now there's no chance. The Liberals have basically have written their own epitaph. It's very sad. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.